Davis Chirchir. Let us give him a hand of applause. Thank you for the noise.
Thank you, Monica and Nation group who are here. Good afternoon, we can have a seat. Let me start by basically acknowledging the great work Nation is doing in this space, disseminating what we all need to do to truly take care of our planet Earth and basically secure our future generations. So, Monica, people like Zainab who have been very consistent in this space, Earthwise program, congratulations and thank you for the great work you are doing. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon again. Let me say how it's a pleasure for me and an honor. It's an honor to be here to address you on this Earthwise program, Summit 2024. And I've been a bit associated to this program because of my past immediate assignment in energy, where, you know, Kenya is a champion and we are the darling of the world in terms of working the journey to achieving energy mix 100% renewable, because energy generation in many economies is a great pollutant. It's a great contributor to challenges of climate change. Lots of the world over today still generate power on coal, on diesel, the heavy fuel oils, and we have a challenge that we see today. So Earthwise, you are doing a great job in disseminating, in basically bringing us together to talk and walking the yardstick to make sure that we achieve on our promises that we truly need to, as Monica did say, Wangare said, we need to protect planet Earth. So it's truly an honor for me to be here at this Earthwise Summit 2024 to share with you what the Ministry of Roads and Transport is doing as a contribution on equity, innovation, resilience in the face of climate change as the theme of this year's Earthwise Summit. The why, the what we are doing is what we'll see what we are doing in roads and transport today. And as you may be aware, my ministry is responsible for overseeing a multimodal integrated transport system consisting of railways, highways, roads, waterways, and aviation systems. The ministry has therefore articulated its policy in the Integrated National Transport Policy, whose overarching vision is a world-class integrated transport system that is responsible to the needs of the people, and its mission is to develop, operate, and maintain an integrated transport system that is efficient, reliable, safe, secure, that would achieve sustainable development. I just came back from kind of a similar summit in Beijing where we talked to global transport sustainability, which is, so the world over is on this subject. And so again, Nation Group, you are doing a great job. The goal of the policy for the transport is to increase the transport sector contribution to the sustainable socio-economic development of Kenya. The Integrated National Transport Policy has three strategic objectives. One, to meet overall Government of Kenya development objectives as contained in our Vision 2030, its development plans and the bottom-up transformation agenda, regional and international development goals and aspirations. The second objective is to promote national, regional, and international integration for increased trade and exploitation of the socio-economic potential of our resources, and to reduce disruptive effects of environmental disasters due to climate change. Ladies and gentlemen, why is climate change at the core of our transport policy and development agenda? As a ministry, we are aware that transport infrastructure and services are vulnerable to climate effects, such as high temperatures, and we do know from our schooling that when the temperatures are high, things expand. When they cool, they contract, and you can imagine what's happening to our thousands of kilometers of our tarmac roads because of high temperatures, increased precipitation, flooding, and drought. As we have seen in the past several years, when our country has really been impacted by climate change, which could even be due to what other countries around us are doing, not necessarily what we are doing. So it's a global agenda today. We are also aware that impacts of climate change, if not mitigated, can have serious disruptive impacts on our transport systems in terms of high construction and maintenance cost of infrastructure, high transport operating cost, freight and passenger time losses when we are stuck in our traffic and so on and so forth, and in the meantime we are polluting and not moving because we are burning fuel, and which have direct effects on our mission as a ministry and the competitiveness of Kenyan goods and services in the global market. We are also aware that the transport sector is one of the highest contributors to the greenhouse gases emissions because it is predominantly driven by fossil fuels and account for 23% of the total human-made carbon dioxide emissions worldwide. During lunch, I was just discussing with Monica and Zainab the fact that even as we disseminate and look at areas of focus, we need to focus more maybe in this area, particularly transport, since Kenya has done very well in the energy generation, because EV is yet to catch up, though we are doing a lot of work in that space. In Kenya, the transport sector is almost entirely powered by fossil fuel, given that the sector utilizes about 72% of the petroleum products imported into the country. In 2015, the transport sector accounted for 13% of greenhouse gases emission, with projections indicating that this would rise to 17% by the year 2030, driven by population growth and, of course, industrialization. Kenya today, as we are aware, and sorry for talking too much about energy, spends over $7.2 billion, $7.2 billion annually. You know, $7.2 billion, I'm looking for $5 billion to build the standard gauge railway to Kisumu, Malaba, and 7.2 is a lot of money, and that is foreign exchange. So we spend 7.2 billion US dollars of our scarce and hard-earned foreign currency to import fossil fuel, whereas we can quickly leverage on our 92% cheap renewable energy mix from geothermal, hydro, solar, and wind to power our mobility industry and save the economy from forex outflows, and therefore use those forex as much needed to do other things that we don't have capacity. And wind, solar, geothermal is abundant. So we don't have to be importing and spending 7.2 billion when we could actually move quickly and, more importantly, address sustainability, address the issues of pollution and therefore climate change. With the rapid development of the global economy and the continuous growth of the population, transportation demand steadily increases, putting tremendous pressure on the environment and society. As a result, development of transport infrastructure works against efforts towards sustainable terrestrial ecosystem, frustrations, and fighting desertification, land degradation, biodiversity loss, while on the other hand, the transport infrastructure assets also become vulnerable to climate stresses, and hence the need to build resilience to cope with climate change impacts. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to share a few experiences and a few more numbers of the climate change effects on some transport infrastructure during the El Nino 2023-2024, which is still very fresh, when cities like, or towns like Garissa were underwater, and then so on and so forth. The meter gauge railway, for example, and we are aware what happened around Kejabe, network was built in the 20th century, but not designed as climate resilient infrastructure, suffered extensive damage, especially in the Kejabe-Kamen area, among other areas, and to make such areas climate-proof will require approximately close to 6 billion, 5.975 billion. So we need 6 billion to be able to really create an embankment to make our transport rail system more resilient to the climate change. And yet, if we address the climate change issues, we'd be okay with what we have. The standard gauge railway network was designed to withstand adverse climate conditions. However, there is need to undertake improvements on the network, such as herringbone slope protection, concrete grouting, reinforcement, drainage solution, and restructuring. And my ministry has estimated that to require about 4 billion Kenya shillings. So numbers which are just kind of mind-boggling. The road network climate proving requires, as a result of El Nino that I talked about, 23-24, estimation of about 30 billion Kenya shillings. We appreciate, therefore, that sustainable transport is a key catalyst for realization of United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development by supporting human society, sustainable development from the economic, social, and environmental sustainability perspectives, and that we need to put more efforts to achieve the goal. What are we doing as a ministry to provide and maintain a resilient transport system for a sustainable future in Kenya? Ratifying, domesticating, and implementing all relevant international and regional conventions and protocols and agreements relating to climate change is one of the things we are doing, so that we work together with the rest of the world. Aligning the integrated national transport policy intervention with international agendas such as sustainable development goals that cover environmental degradation, climate change resolutions, among others. Developing an e-mobility policy. In fact, it is at the tail end. I think my technical team are presenting that to me. Therefore, we'll be able to work on legislation, work on regulations, and be able to really move quickly on the e-mobility space, which I talked too much towards leveraging on our energy mix, and therefore even cutting costs in terms of exporting our few forexes that we earn, not so much as a mineral country, but from our agricultural produce. So we are developing an e-mobility policy and measures to promote the adoption of e-mobility across all transport modes, including supporting infrastructure to reduce the greenhouse gases, emission, and noise. In maritime, the ministry is implementing the green port policy. We have our new port in Lamu, and we'll try and work to make it as green as possible. Currently working with the county government to develop a national urban transport policy whose objective is to enhance the capability of urban areas to plan, finance, and implement programs, projects, and measures designed to fulfill the mobility needs of people and businesses in a sustainable manner. In particular, the UN, or the National Urban Transport Policy, is to promote multimodal urban transport and land use planning to enhance the development of integrated mass rapid transit system and non-motorized transport, which are crucial to the reduction of greenhouse emission in urban areas. We're also establishing institutions with enhanced mandate and resources to focus on environmental protection and enhancement. For example, we have strengthened our policy framework to test for and monitor vehicle emissions more effectively with the NTSA system. The National Urban Transport Policy will be more focused on emission, vehicle emission monitoring. Improving climate resilience of transport infrastructure services by introducing regulation for climate risk assessment as mandatory parts of strategic environmental and social assessment regulations for transport policies and programs, and environmental and social impact assessment regulations for all projects is one of the things we are also focusing on. Planning to establish a well-resourced climate change coordination unit to coordinate adoption and mitigation activities in the sector and ensure annual reporting on performance of climate action. And therefore, we'll be working closely to work on the dissemination agenda. Providing the regulatory framework and appropriate fiscal policies to promote energy efficient and low emission freight transport, including shifting long distance freight from road to rail. The day before yesterday, I was working and trying to understand as the new minister. I'm about 2 months old in office now, and seeing how can we use more of the rail transport to move people to work. And from one of the lines that I witnessed and commissioned some of the stations on Wednesday, from Ruiru, coming all the way to, that is the Nairobi line, we move about 5,000 people with one wagon and of course several cars. Whereas if you are moving that by matatu, you can imagine to move 5,000 people. And that is done between 6:45 in the morning, and by 8 o'clock they are all at the railway station, and we return them back home in the evening. It's also some of the things we are doing to really consolidate and ensure that we shift more to really rail, moving cargo, moving, using more huger, bigger, and of course rail systems so that we can remove and decongest the city and reduce pollution and so on and so forth. Also pursuing innovative technologies in the field of environmental conservation and use of alternative materials with less carbon footprints in transport infrastructure and construction. Developing capacity in terms of personnel and technology to support production and deployment of renewable fuels such as nitrogen, such as biofuels or green hydrogen, technologies which are already working in Kenya. In fact, there is a plant on green hydrogen which is already running within Oserian Flowers, and I know Kenyan is doing a lot of work in this space. We are also working on forging closer cooperation with industry. So the Nation Group, you are not alone. Let's build partnerships to work together, and the rest of the industry and international organizations to ensure that up-to-date information on climate change impacts and adaptation measures for transport is available, widely disseminated and taken into account by policymakers, transportation planners, and engineers, so that we have an ecosystem that is conscious all the time of climate change, sustainability, as we build to develop our cities, develop our ecosystem. Let's work together with readily available information so that we can work together in this space. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I would like to reaffirm my ministry's commitment to working with all key stakeholders in the climate change space to the development of resilient transport infrastructure and services for a shared future where all Kenyans can thrive in a sustainable and inclusive environment. Allow me also to basically touch on the simple things that we can do together as Kenyans, planting a tree. to address sustainability. Trees are good carbon sinks because of the biology of how a tree breathes. And therefore, in my ministry today, under the presidential program, as part of achieving the 15 billion afforestation program to raise the forest cover to a high percentage of, we are working on what, close to 15%. My ministry has been allocated to plant 3.7 million trees every year. And how do we achieve this target? We sit at the ministry with the various, with my 2 state departments, with the various agencies, and share out these 3.7 billion trees. And depending on capacity of every state agency, we have adopted a forest mangrove planting in Dogokundu. We have also been allocated in Homa Bay, Rangwe, Gembe, and Kwasi wetlands. And so we share out in those ecosystems with the enterprises, those 3.7, and ensure that the ministry goes out to inspect and ensure that we are meeting our targets once every month. I'm out with the whole, but we build programs also with our community-based organizations in those areas to be able to support the tree planting, tree growing, so much to say, including ensuring that those trees do mature. And therefore, there's so much that we can do together in supporting our climate, supporting our environment, and truly making our ecosystem sustainable to give us the comfort that we need. Because, you know, Mother Nature can be harsh. When you see a landslide, the kind of things we see in Moranga, what I just mentioned of Kejabe rolling down and carrying. In fact, today, the railway line to Western Kenya is still closed because we have not managed to fully rehabilitate the wash-off and so on and so forth. You'll also recall the preservation that the government went out of its way, including the president making a pronouncement to preserve a tree in Westlands, that Mugumo tree as you enter the expressway, or the Marabu stock birds preservation in Nyayo Stadium, where the expressway again had to be. So there's so much that we can do together to be able to address the ecosystem of sustainability of our climate. So Nation Group, again, through this program, Earthwise, on equity, innovation, resilience, in the face of climate change, the Wise and the North, let's work together. We are available to cooperate. And as a Ministry of Roads and Transport, you have my commitment. I can be a true partner in this space to ensure that we all achieve this sustainability program. Thank you very much. Asanteni.
I don't know if you can hear me. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you so much, Bonasias, for your commitment and also